All right, okay, here we go. You all ready? All right, welcome to another episode of me eating hot dogs. Wanted to first say that I was really happy with the last episode. It came out good, and I'll never do it again, but it was fun while it lasted there. So this week we're going to be talking, we're going to do another little bit of history here. We're going to be talking about, let's see, let me see if I can let me see what I'd title it. I'd call it the Big Salami Wars of the 1980s, or maybe the internal war of kind of kosher assimilation, or how kosher became not kosher and glatt kosher became kosher. I don't know, you might not care about any of those titles. You can just stop right now if you want. I don't really, whatever you want to do. But I'm just doing all this because it's all kind of related, interrelated and stuff like that. So let's go. This is going to be kind of potentially multiple parts, and I'm just kind of setting the stage for the actual salami war, which won't be part of this particular episode, okay? So let's just go first. We're going to go step back. We're going to go backwards in time to probably around the 1960s, early 1960s. If you recall from the Katz's episode, we talked about how people were moving out. Jewish people were moving out of the Lower East Side and Manhattan and moving into the tri-state area. They were moving into Long Island and Westchester, and they were moving into New Jersey. And when they moved there, what followed were kosher food that they can buy in the grocery store. Okay, and there were a bunch of very big meat-related ones, and they were all located in the city. There's an exception. Shofar was located in Chicago, but most of them were located in New York City. And so there was a very big kind of butchers union or meat handlers union that was running all of these different kosher meat packing establishment places. Okay. And what ended up happening around the 60s, everyone realized that sales were flat. Why were they flat? They were flat because they had 1.5 million people within their market, the Jewish population, and they bought as much as they could. It was prevalent in their house already, and so that was the growth right there. And so the companies had a choice. They can either try to double down and get more food into people's houses and grab more of the market share. You know, say, oh, instead of 10% of the salamis, I want to have 50% of the salamis. Or what they could do is they can go out and try to get other people that aren't Jewish to eat kosher-related, this type of Jewish food. Okay? And those are two different paths. And some took that other path, the path to try to expand their market as big as possible. Okay, so 1961 was the very first of these, I believe, and it was Levy's Jewish Rye. Levy's Jewish Rye. And Levy's Jewish Rye had the following posters plastered all over New York. They were brilliant. As a matter of fact, they were so brilliant that even today, if you're taking some kind of marketing theory, you would potentially study these posters because they were so good. And they're so 60s and very graphic. And so here they are. Here's a couple of them. See them? They're like, right? You don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's Jewish Rye. They could have pulled the Jewish out of it and pulled the ethnicity out of it and just called it Levy's Rye, but they didn't, and that's what was kind of interesting about it. All right. Next, let's fast forward to 1975, where Hebrew National, who had two-thirds of the entire market, decides to start to market themselves out to everyone else, to the rest of the country. And so the following ad is the ad that introduced Hebrew National to the whole entire country. And if you take a look at it, you'll notice that not only are they talking about Hebrew National, but they're defining kosher as a differentiator in the ad. I totally grew up with this ad. Take a look.
Government regulations say we can make our Hebrew National beef hot dogs from frozen beef. We don't. The government says we can use artificial coloring. We don't. They say we can add meat byproducts. We don't. They say we can add non-meat fillers. We can't. We're kosher and have to answer to an even higher authority.
Right? Does anyone remember that? It's kind of interesting. Then in 1977, a couple of years later, here's how far they get. Look at this ad.
Recently I converted to Hebrew National Kosher hot dogs. Improper? Not at all. My friends, there's no such thing as a religious hot dog. Hebrew National is a better hot dog. Unlike most hot dogs, it contains only pure fresh beef and natural flavorings. No meat byproducts, artificial coloring or fillers. It tastes absolutely divine. To me, anything less just wouldn't be kosher.
That's an interesting one too. Look, you don't have to convert to like Hebrew Nationals. Very similar to the levies that we saw before. And then in 1980, there's another brand, very, very popular New York brand, Philadelphia. Philadelphia makes cream cheese, as you know. And here's what's really interesting. I don't know if anyone here knows this, but people didn't really eat cream cheese anywhere but in New York on bagels. So the concept of getting everyone excited about cream cheese, you had to explain that cream cheese could be eaten. You had to explain what cream cheese is. So let's look at this ad. This one is one of my favorite ads. Take a look.
Temptee whipped cream cheese isn't just for people who like bagels.
And the Temptee, please. Thank you.
Temptee is creamy enough to eat with an omelet, light enough and fluffy enough to spread on a croissant, and delicious enough for just about everyone.
Bagel for your Temptee, sir?
A bagel? What's a bagel?
Temptee whipped cream cheese is whipped, so it's bigger than the bagel.
It's a good ad, right? You know what's interesting about it? People didn't even know what a bagel was in half the country. That's why they were making fun of the fact that half the country doesn't even know what a bagel is. Can you imagine not knowing a bagel, not knowing what cream cheese is, not knowing what pastrami is, not knowing what like salami? It's crazy. It's crazy. But this stuff had to be introduced into kind of united U.S. popular culture. So it did. Okay, so there we are. And then Hebrew National is the biggest of these companies when it comes to the meat stuff, and when it comes to hot dogs and salamis and pastrami and corned beef. They're all making it. People are buying it like crazy in New York. Now it's spreading out around the country. And something interesting happens. In 1985, in June of 1985, Rabbi Reuben, we'll talk about Rabbi Reuben. He's one of the inspectors that goes in. He's in charge of the inspectors that go in to these kosher facilities and make sure that they follow the dietary laws. Okay, so he goes in 1985, and Hebrew National's factory, and Hebrew National passes. Just keep that in mind. What I'm about to tell you. As we move forward, you'll understand why this is significant. Not that this was not unique. This happened probably multiple times a year. In 1986, June of 1986, a year later, Hebrew National is negotiating with the union, with the meat handlers union or food handlers union, and they decide that they're going to ask for 60 cents to be removed from everyone's salary, 60 cents an hour to be removed from everyone's salary. And up to that point, Hebrew National was like super popular to work at because they actually had a 60-cent increase. So they had 60 cents more than anyone else was. Now, because sales are flat, they weren't actually making a massive amount of money when they were making food in the city. City's an expensive place. They wanted to reduce by 60 cents. So there was a huge strike. And it was a big strike, actually, a big deal. Even though there's only a few hundred, the Food Handlers Union went on strike over this. Okay? And it got really crazy. There was actually a bomb placed in someone's car. The car exploded in Merrick, New York, on Long Island, and no one was hurt, but it was a big deal. It was a little weird. It was a little scary. And then, in August of 1986, Hebrew National announces that they're going to move. They're going to move from Queens. They're going to move from New York. 1.5 million. There's a fly just on top. You know, it's super hot here, by the way. It's like 112 degrees. Okay, they decide they're going to move from Queens, where there's 1.5 million Jews in that area, all the way to Indianapolis, where there's like 11,000. And they're going to move and they flabbergast everyone in New York. No one can believe it. This brand has been making food since 1905. It's like a cultural. It's like a major piece of New York culture, Hebrew National, and now it's moving all the way to Indianapolis. It was a big deal. Everyone had to work. If you wanted to work there, you could move to Indianapolis with a $5 rate reduction per hourly rate. $5. That's a really big deal. No one moved over there. The other thing is the facility they were moving into. The facility they were moving into had been a facility that was once used to make pork products, so people were really, really pissed off. And so all of New York decided, a bunch of people in New York decided, or a bunch of, I don't know what, the unions all decided they would no longer eat, and they were going to boycott all of Hebrew National's products. Groceries stopped carrying Hebrew National products. It was a big, it was getting really crazy. And Hebrew National then did the one almost unexcusable thing, which is, in order to satisfy the tastes of regular Americans, they reduced the amount of garlic, they reduced the amount of fat, they changed the recipe. And changing the recipe was a big deal. So the salami you bought in 1986 or 1985 is different than the hot dog than the salami that you bought in 1987, right? It just tasted differently. And then in 1987, Rabbi Reuben came back out from the shadows with a report that said that he had seen when he inspected Hebrew National, he saw a vat of boiling beef that had not been salted. Salted being a very important part of koshering. You kosher the meat. You salt the meat to get as much blood off the meat as possible before you cook it. But it was being cooked and it wasn't salted. That would render all of Hebrew National's products unkosher. Right? That's pretty crazy, right? So suddenly they're being accused of that. And they retaliate by putting up this full-page ad in the New York Times. Look at this thing. Oh my God, look at that. Look, they're not taking this lying down. So we've just set the stage. Check this out. The food is changing, right? It's different than it was. They've relocated. Hebrew National's relocated. The Giant has relocated all the way to Indianapolis. There's questions of it being kosher even. Do you remember in The Hobbit where there's like a dragon with like one like scale gone? So it's the one weakness. So let me just tell you this. Shofar Meats out of Chicago saw the weakness. And so they took a shot at the big dragon. But I'm going to stop there. Because if I don't, I'm going to run out of time on that camera right there. Right? Yes, good. Okay. So that's it. I'm going to stop there. If everyone's asleep now, you can wake up. Okay? Because here's what we're going to do. We are going to review, in honor of the fact that I'm talking about kosher, we're going to try a kosher hot dog. This is Shor Habor Hot Dog. Shor Habor Hot Dog. They're out of Iowa. Iowa. That's where Aaron's Kosher is. I think it's the same company that makes Aaron's Kosher, makes Shor Habor Kosher. Okay? And we're going to try them. Look, if you could take a look at them, there's 8 to this 12-ounce package. They're relatively small. They're probably similar in size to like the Oscar Mayer hot dogs. Let's see how they are. Let's do it. Hopefully you guys are awake. You've, opened your eyes from being asleep through my weird story, right? Okay, but I'm ready. I've cooked. I've done the cooking. Look. Here we have. Look at that. Shor Habor beef hot dog. So Shor Habor, made by Agristar out of Postville, Iowa. That's right, from Iowa. Isn't that interesting? There's a whole story about that we're not even going to get into, okay? Small little hot dog. Again, I'm going to have to kind of, all right, I'm going to just have to choke up on that thing there to get it to get it biteable even. Look at that. I can remove that much of my bun, and I still have. It's not even bun length. That's how much I need to get a bun length. Okay, or hot dog length. I don't even know what you'd say. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it. Here I go. Shor Habor going in. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have the texture I love. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, a massive amount of flavor. It's not super salty, which is good. It's got this an odd smoky flavor, not, and I wouldn't say overly smoky, but it's got some kind of smokiness there. Paprika I can taste, and sweetness. I can taste a little bit of sweetness. Not sweetness like some other types of hot dogs that we've had before, but it's there. I just think as a package, it's not like overwhelming, I would not go off in search of this hot dog. And to be honest, this hot dog is only really available at a kosher butcher. So by me, I have to go right to Oakland to get this. So I would not make any kind of special trip just to get myself one of these. So my review, Shor Habor. 2-1. 2-1. You know, there you go. Look, if it's as hot by you as it is by me, try to stay cool. All right. Have a good one. See you next time. Me eating hot dog.